Hey everyone, Jim here, and today we're going to be discussing how to use a decision matrix to help you make decisions a little bit easier for yourself. As I've stated before, this is something that I didn't learn until I was in the workforce for like a really long time, but I felt it was something that was just super useful because, my company sent me to, kind of learn this, and, it was to make sound business decisions, which makes sense, right? But the more I looked at it, the more I was like, you know what, this can actually help in personal situations. And, I've seen people use this in, just any sort of decision making process, whether you're buying a car, or in my case, I used it when we bought our first house. Um, in the case of like going to school, if you're looking at different schools or different, facilities, like, somewhere to go to get like a higher education, you can use this as well to help you with that decision. Now, it does rely heavily on breaking down what it is that is most important to you and kind of assigning things a number. I just want to throw that out there before we get into it. But the important thing is to remember is that we're humans. We do things based on emotion and not logic. So you can do a decision matrix and, say, okay, based on this decision matrix, I should go with, option A. And then, the next day you could be like, you know what, I'm just feeling option B. Human beings are emotional creatures. So, you know, this is a tool though to help you. So if you are like struggling between, a couple decisions and you just don't know and you really don't have an option that you're really like dead set on, then this could definitely help you to sit to look at it from a different perspective and say, okay, this is what this is the option that I think I should go with. Again, if it's purely let's break everything down, let's look at all the factors that go into this decision. The decision matrix is actually really helpful. So, with that being said, I'm going to start by. Hey everyone, so I quickly realized when I was writing on the board there that, yeah, I can't draw good at all. Even though a matrix is pretty much just straight lines, I managed to jack it up pretty bad. So I'm over here now at the computer, and we're just going to do this on the spreadsheet because I think that it'll be way easier for you to read and it'll be way easier to convey the information. So let's get to it, and let's do this. All right, so what we want to do is, whatever decision we want to make, the first step is you want to list out all of your options. Now, when I was going to school, I didn't have many options because I just kind of wanted to get it over with. So these were my four criteria. These were four schools that I was looking at. And I said, okay, these are my four options, and let's kind of see what I was doing. And again, this is an example. If your schools obviously are going to be completely different, and everything, all your must-haves, your wants, all this stuff is going to be different for you. But let's say that you have a list, right? You have a list of schools or a list of whatever. And again, we'll go through this, and we'll do this for a college selection. And I even have a home buying example I want to give to you that me and my wife used a couple years back. So let's start off first. We have our list here, right? I have four colleges, and it's like, okay, my goal here is to decide, all right, which one is really best for me. And so I'm going to list these out, and then the next step is going to be, and you guys can ignore all these numbers for now, but just make your initial list. Like, all right, what are the choices that you have to choose from, right? If you haven't gotten to that point, if you don't have a list of some sort, go back, make an initial list, and then you can come back to this when you have a list. And now the first step that we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, what are my absolute must-haves, things that I absolutely need with whatever choice I end up going with. So, as an example, when I started looking at schools, right, I quickly realized that public schools in state were just much cheaper than schools out of state, right? There's that whole in-state, out-of-state tuition. So that was one thing, and that kind of stemmed from this. I wanted to spend less than 20,000 a year on college. Granted, I was a transfer student, so I was going from sophomore into junior, so I was only going to be in this college for 2 years. If I was going to do 4 years right off the bat, this number might be different. But again, this was my number. Your number's going to be different depending on, if you have college funds, financial aid, scholarships, all that stuff. It's going to be different. But this was mine. I wanted. So for me, it was a must-have. Tuition was less than $20K a year. It had to be in-state. And again, because I couldn't really find an out-of-state college that met that criteria. All the out-of-state schools I looked at were like really expensive unless you were a resident. So it was in-state, tuition less than $20K. Mechanical or aerospace engineering major, that's what I was going for. It was going to be one or the other. I wasn't 100% certain yet. And I had read many places that you could always decide in your junior year still. So those were my first three, and then the fourth one was just that whatever college I went to was ABET accredited. That just means that they recognize that school as having an accredited engineering curriculum. And this is important no matter what. A lot of times you want to check whatever you're majoring in, whatever specific area you're going into, you want to make sure that the school that you're going to is accredited. We actually spoke to, I believe it was a biologist or a microbiologist a little while ago, and long story short is he missed out on a huge actual career opportunity because he found out later that the college he got his degree from wasn't accredited from some certain board. So this is something to look into, and again, that was one of my must-haves. So I wanted to be in-state, less than $20K a year, have that major, and be accredited. So quickly, you could see, and this is why there's no numbers here. This one, I had thought like, oh, it'd be cool to go to Hawaii and learn and study and whatever. And, as soon as I looked at it, I was like, okay, tuition for me would be astronomical, that. And so that is going to get taken off my list. And that's what you need to do when you're writing out these must-haves, these absolute musts. If they don't apply to you, you have to take them off the list, and that's the rule. And if you find yourself wanting to make kind of excuses for this, if you say, well, I really want this school, or want to go with this, so maybe it's all right, maybe it's not a must-have, then maybe you can move it down to your wants list. Once you've determined what criteria are absolutely necessary, review it, see which options don't meet any of those, and then take it off your list. So, like I said, I just did that with the Hawaii option. Now, the next step, what we're going to do is we are going to go over to your wants. Now, the wants are basically what's going to determine, what out of these remaining three, which decision we're going to go with. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to rank these wants, how much do they actually mean to us? How important are they to us? So I'm going to start with mine, and I just want to give you guys a heads up. I honestly just wanted to get school over when I was going it, so I wasn't super picky. As you can see, I only have 3 wants, but everybody's going to be different. There could be so many other things, and we'll go over some other possibilities that might be important to you. But again, going through this example, these were my 3. I wasn't super picky about this. So let's see. Location, closer to home the better. I really didn't want to go that far from home. I was just the type of person that I had really close friends, and I liked hanging out with those friends, and my family was all in a certain area. I really wanted to stay as close to home as possible if I wanted to. So the question is how important was that to me? And, after thinking about it, I was like, okay, I'm open to driving. I don't have a problem driving, a long way to visit friends and family and things like that. So I ended up going with ranking that as an 8. What you'll see is here we chose this 1 through 10 scale. There's some decision matrices out there that will use 1 to 5. The reason why I choose 1 to 10 is because if you choose a smaller scale, let's say 1 to 5. When you get a final number, which will pop up here eventually, when you get that final number, you're more apt to get like a tie. And then in that case, it's like harder because then it's like, okay, well, I still have to decide between those two. And, so I would say the 1 to 10 scale is just better. And for that very reason, you're less likely to get a tie. So again, going back to the location, I ranked that as an 8. 1 to 10, it was really pretty important to me, but I wouldn't say it was a 10 because, like I said, I was open to, having to drive to places and everything like that, or to drive back home and stuff to visit people. So now this next one, good selection of electives. I really had an interest in a lot of different things in mechanical and aerospace engineering. So the biggest thing for me was when we got to that junior or senior level, which is what I was going into, what are the electives? Because they always let you take a certain amount of electives. And I think over the course of 2 years, I think, you got to choose at least 5 or 6 different elective classes. And I really wanted it to be something that interests me, right? Because I feel like no matter what, if you're interested in whatever you're learning, it's going to be a huge, it's going to be much easier to do well, and you just enjoy what you're learning. So for me, this was actually super important, and I ranked that as a 10. So yeah, that was definitely the most important thing for me when I was looking at schools. I really wanted them to have good, really interesting electives. So, and then we're going to go to the next one, job placement rate. In all honesty, it's something I looked at, but it honestly wasn't very important because I felt that having worked previous jobs in the past, I had a decent resume as far as mechanics and stuff like that. I really didn't feel like I needed the school's placement rate to be all that good. I felt like as long as I got a degree and it was, ABET accredited, I felt like I could take care of it myself. So I actually ended up only ranking that as a 2. So now we have our wants taken care of. And again, if you have more wants, and in fact, let's take a look at some like other possibilities. Again, I'm using myself as an example. It's simple. I was not very picky. I just wanted to get school done type thing. But other possibilities, right? Admission rate, are you definitely going to get accepted there? School size, do you like, a big school environment, a small school? Me particularly, I ended up, most of the schools I applied to seemed to just be big schools. I'm not sure if it was a curriculum thing, but in all honesty, that didn't really matter to me. Professor quality, the quality of the department, does whatever you're going into, do they have a real good department? And actually, I realized this was closely related with my choice of selection of electives. The schools that I looked at, they actually did have good like mechanical or aerospace departments. Again, I wasn't really that picky. I didn't include it. Study abroad program, are you interested in doing that? And does that school have a good one? Accreditation, again, this actually I did include in mine, and it was a must-have. Like, I was not going to go to a school without that because, I didn't want to work so hard for a degree, and then employers say like, hey, that school isn't accredited. So, campus life, are you going to be staying there? Dorm rooms, and regulations. Sometimes they have different rules. How important is that stuff for you? And some of this stuff is going to take some looking into. You're going to have to say, okay, you're going to have to look at each school, see what people say online, and say, okay, how is this school, and are they super strict with this, and how are the dorms? You might have to go on a few visits, etc. And then their internship co-op programs, that could be another big thing, but those are just some other possibilities for other people, not myself. Again, this was mine, basically. So now that we've ranked all our wants, we've said, okay, each one of these is worth a certain point value. What we're going to do now is we are going to go over here, and we are going to go through, again, we deleted the one that didn't meet my must-haves. I deleted that. So now I got these 3 left, right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to say, okay, each school, how does it match that want? So we're going to start with UB, University of Buffalo. And for some of you guys maybe watching this and you might have noticed that I had a Buffalo t-shirt on. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's the one that ended up winning. We're going to judge this. Want one. Location. Yeah, for me, Buffalo was the farthest school, but it was still in state and it was still a 5 hour drive. And to me, some people might say like 5 hour drive, that's insane. I would never do that like once a month. Like me, I felt like I wanted to be able to visit my friends and family at least like once every 2 months or once a month. And that's why I had the location thing on there. I had the in-state thing on there. But it was the farthest from me, and it was a 5 hour drive, so I ranked that as a 4. Again, for me, 5 hours driving was doable. It definitely wasn't great, but it was definitely doable. That's why I didn't rank it any lower. So I ranked that as a 4 regarding that. Now, real quick, guys, just noticed that right here, this number popped up, and the reason it did is because I put a little formula in here, and what this section is doing is it's weighting the scores, right? So it's saying, okay, UB ranks a 4 for want 1. We're going to take that 4 and multiply it by the importance. So basically what that's doing is saying, okay, if something was super important, and so let's say on the second one, it's worth, I said it's a 10 on my list. It's really important. And let's say that school particularly matched it really well. It's going to get more points. And basically, at the end, we're going to add these all up. And whoever has the more points is going to be what should be the decision. Again, this is just a tool. You don't have to go with what it comes out. But again, it's a good way to really lay stuff out and look at it and go over all the different factors that might contribute. So yeah, having said that, I put a 4 in here, it multiplies it by the 8 and gives it a 32. So let's go. Binghamton, as far as, again, we're still dealing with want 1 with location. And, that was much closer to me, and I think it was like a 2-hour drive, so I ranked that an 8. So again, 8 times 8, a 64 pops up. So if you're doing this by hand or some other method, you might, have to do some simple math to figure this out. But CUNY or SUNY, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. Basically, it was the City University of New York. For that, it was in the city, which was much, much closer to me. And I liked the fact that, okay, I would probably have to train it every day, and I could get work done on the train and stuff. So I ranked that as a 9. It definitely came in, the top. So what we're going to do now is we're going to extend this, and we're going to go through the other things. So I'm going to probably move at a little bit of a faster pace since you guys kind of see what's going on. And right now, based on this one, you could see which one's in the lead. Obviously, City University is because it's got a higher score. But we have to weigh out the other wants and how they affect the decision. So let's see, UB want to. Oh, good selection of electives. Yeah, they had the best actual electives. When I looked at all 3 of these schools and their list of electives, I just loved theirs the best, and it was they just had a huge selection in both aerospace and mechanical, which to me was awesome. So I actually gave them a 10. Binghamton wasn't as much, like they didn't have, I don't think they had aerospace, it was just mechanical, and I looked at their electives and they were like okay, they were so I gave them a 6. City University, it was a little bit better. It was like Binghamton, but a little bit better. A few more interesting courses in mechanical, so I gave them a 7. And now we're going to go to want 3, and this is job placement rate, and which they all had pretty good job placement statistics and everything. So I'm just going to put these down real quick. This is what I went with. It was like a 998. They all did fairly well. And now you can see that after, again, all these weighted scores down here are saying, okay, you ranked this school that for want 2, and want 2 is worth this much, and it gives it the weighted score. And now what this is doing is this is summing up everything on this, and now you can see that City University ends up winning. Now, again, I go back to the fact that, in some of my videos, you see me wearing a Buffalo shirt. To make a long story short, what ended up happening is City University had a really early application deadline, and I missed it. So when I went to actually apply, they had already closed, which I was just shocked by because it was much earlier than the other schools. So what I did is I ended up going with my backup, the University of Buffalo. Go Bulls. But you know what? I'm actually really glad that happened because Buffalo was a great school. I really enjoyed it. I love going back. I got tons of good friends, there. And honestly, one of the fact that I moved further away out of my comfort zone really actually taught me a lot of things. It helped me make new friends when I didn't know anybody, and it was actually a pretty great experience. I don't know if I would have got the same thing going to City University because again, it was like 45 minutes from where I live, so I may have not expanded my stuff as much. So this is, as an example, this would have been my choice. This would have been the winner based on this factor. And again, remember, these could be much, much bigger. You could have, 10 choices, and you're like, oh, I just can't decide between any of these 10. And then you could have more must-haves. You could have more wants. Again, like some of the stuff I included here. So there we go. That is the final decision matrix for that individual decision that worked out for me. Now, I just wanted to give you guys an example of another situation where doing this sort of analysis would be helpful, and that comes in as like if you're just making a decision about something to buy. And I actually included this with I'm not going to go through this one because I feel like you got a good grasp of the whole process just from the last example with colleges and stuff. But this is a different decision. We're talking about buying a house here, right? So it's much, much different. Me and my wife, we were looking for our first house. We were living in Ohio at the time, and we had so many different choices, and our realtor was like, well, it'd be helpful to narrow it down. And so we sat down and we said, okay, like what are our must-haves? We said 3 bedrooms. We got 3 kids, so we need at least 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, within 45 minutes of Columbus suburbs, within 45 minutes of my work, and then less than 150K. Those are all like our must-haves, and we told her this is what we're looking for. This was the basic list, and then we said ideally we'd like to be closer to the suburbs. I'd like to be a little closer to work as well. 2 full bathrooms, which ended up not being super important because our kids were at a young age where we realized just an extra half bath is good to use the restroom and stuff. But tall ceilings. The 2-car garage ended up ranking very high because I told my wife that was very important to me. So yeah, long story short is, again, this one is a little bit more, it's got some more wants on it. But you would just go through it the same way that you did this one. You would knock out options if they didn't meet your must-have, and then you would rank these. Say, hey, okay, And now, if you have like a template like this already set up, it's actually pretty easy. And you guys feel free to, if you have an Excel spreadsheet or Google Sheets, you can just like copy this and And again, just you want to list out your wants, your must-haves, your wants, rank them. How does each option, how does it, how does it meet these want needs? You know what I mean? So like, if a house was 5 minutes from the suburbs or was in the suburbs, obviously that would be a 9 or a 10, and then, just rank it accordingly. Like, how much are these? Are these going to affect me? And then just, again, you could just, number them here, go through each one, and then you can set up a little thing where it multiplies it, and then it adds up your scores. So, yeah, I hope that this video was really informative for you guys. I know I thought it was very useful and very interesting. Now, if you're more of an analytical person, you'll definitely probably enjoy this more. But even my wife, she's the opposite of me in that she's not very analytical at all. She's more just go with the flow, like, go with your feeling, go with your gut type person. But when we had so many different choices and so many different things that we were considering, and we had to kind of narrow down the choices, because if you just say like, oh, I want a house, for any given area, there could be hundreds and hundreds of homes for sale. So you got to find a way to narrow it down. And even my wife, who again is more of go with the flow, not an analytical person at all, she actually thought this was actually cool, and she kind of enjoyed the process. She was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is important to me. And again, talking about buying your first home, it always is a little bit exciting. But yeah, so if you're not an analytical person, I would still say at least maybe even give this a shot the next time you have a decision with lots of options to choose from. If your gut is not giving you the answer, if you're torn between 2 or 3 different options and you're having trouble, this might be a way to say, hey, you know what, after looking at it from this perspective, even though I'm not an analytical person, I'm looking at it from this perspective, and you know what, I realize that overall is what I want, because I didn't realize, but it really meets all my needs, and it meets more of my wants than anything else. So again, just a super helpful tool. I wish I had learned it earlier, and it can be used for so many different things when you're making a decision, about so many different things, whether it's school decisions, cars, homes. Whenever you have lots of options, it's just a great tool. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you got something out of it. And if you'd like to see more videos like this when we launch April 2nd, we will be having other videos very similar to this. For those that are on our email list before we launch, there will be a bonus section, a freebie section, including videos like this and the resume video, but we're also going to have other videos as well. If there's anything particular you'd like to see, scroll to the bottom of the page, hit that contact form, let us know. And if you're still searching for what it is you're actually going to be, going into, whether it's a college major or a trade school, or just a career change, and you'd like to listen to what people in those professions have to say, we will be launching the job documentaries April 2nd. So contact us, let us know what you want to see, and we look forward to hearing from you guys. Have a good rest of your morning, your afternoon, or your night.